Sometimes it feels like no matter what game we get into, our teammates are simply not that good. We might have the flanking DPS that keeps getting picked, or the Ryan that constantly charges in and dies. Maybe you have the Mercy that whips out her pistol every single fight. These trash teammates are apparent everywhere, and they simply ruin your chances of winning again and again. That being said, GameLeap has you covered with the top 8 best tips to hard carry your bad teammates so that you can get that sweet SR again and again, leaving these bad teammates behind forever. With all that being said, let's just jump right into it, shall we? So kicking it off with the first tip on our list, you need to learn how to evaluate your teammates' level. Understanding just what your teammates' strengths and weaknesses are is one of the best things that you need to be able to do in each and every game. Now, I know what you're thinking. Your teammate that keeps flanking and dying over and over again, you don't think that they have any strengths. That being said, I guarantee you that every single player that's playing around your rank has certain strengths that got them there in the first place. You need to understand what their strengths are and try to utilize this and try to enable this strategy. Maybe you have a DPS that keeps going on a flank, but he will get value if you give him some sort of support. Try and experiment with just how much impact each and every teammate will get. Maybe they won't bring anything to the table and they're having just a terrible game, but you need to understand if there's possible ways to work with them so that they get value, or if there's things that you have to play around in order to give value. Think about in each and every game, you're going to have tons of teammates that simply don't meet the expectations that you have for them, but if you can first evaluate their level, understand if there's something that you could specifically do to ensure that they don't feed and that you get impact, that can be one of the best ways that you're carrying your teammates behind the scenes. Now, moving on to the second tip that really goes along with this is you want to be picking characters that play with your teammates' strengths. This can be true for every single role, but what you want to be doing is playing a character that helps your impact of even your bad teammates. Yeah, you heard me right, your bad teammates. Maybe you have a Genji that goes on the flanks all the time. Playing a healer that can give him resources and heal him from across the map can be some of the best things that you can do. Maybe you want to play a dive tank to just go in and dive with him so that he's not flanking alone. Understanding what your teammates are doing wrong and what you can do to be the difference maker in that can be so powerful. Now, we're going to talk about what you can do to not play with your team and still have impact, but firstly, you want to try to play with their weaknesses. After you identify your teammates' level and you understand their strengths, you want to try to enable those strengths the best you possibly can. This assures that your team is fighting at more of a fighting force. Let me break down this example to help you understand. Maybe you have a McCree, and on an impact scale from 1 to 10, that McCree normally gets a 2. Maybe if you're a tank or support that's better than the average tank and support, you can increase that McCree's 2 to a 4 or a 5. But maybe some random other tank or support that's not working with the McCree might not make the McCree any more impactful. That McCree stays at a 2. If you can consistently increase the impact level of your teammates by analyzing their level and playing to their strengths, you could have more impact and you will actually be the carry behind the scenes. They might be getting the picks and getting the value, but it's only because you're putting in the resources to help them achieve their goal, where otherwise they would feed and die. Now, tip number 3 is work together with your team when you can, but know when it's not going to work out and you have to take matters into your own hands. Maybe you're a Zarya and you keep playing with your Reinhardt, but your Ryan doesn't go in. You try to tell him to go in at certain times, but he's extremely passive. He's not having the impact. All the while, your backline is getting dope again and again. You can adapt your playstyle to play completely different so that you're not playing with your team, or switch to a pick altogether that doesn't need any sort of synergy. This means maybe switching to something like Roadhog and going on flanks to find impact. If your Ryan's not going and putting in pressure anyways, then there's no point in trying to consistently try to bubble him over and over again if he's not bringing any value to the table. This can also be true for something like a support. Maybe you don't want to be playing Mercy and pocketing your DPS if your DPS aren't having the impact that you want them to. Maybe playing something like a DPS Lucio or playing something like a Brig that can have explicit impact or value into the enemy team. These are adaptations that you should know. So what's important to understand is steps 1 through 3 should be done in order. First, you evaluate your team's level, you understand their strengths and try to enable them, but understand when you can adapt and when you have to change, when even if you're trying to enable those strengths, it's not enough. And that's something that you need to do. Some games are going to be really easy. Sometimes you're going to evaluate teammates' level, you're going to be able to enable them in a way where they completely dominate the game, and then you're going to win the game super easily. You want to take those wins and ensure that those are easy wins, but not every game is going to be like that, and you have to be able to adapt if you want to hard carry these bad teammates. Now, let's moving on to number 4, learn to be self-sufficient. And this is something that everyone has to learn how to be able to do. Whether you're a tank, a DPS, or a support, learn how to find impact or value on very low team team help or resources. Whether you're a DPS that doesn't get any orb, or maybe you're a tank that gets very little heals, maybe you're a support that gets no peel, learning how to be self-sufficient, learning how to take care of yourself and not trust your team. Sure, there's going to be many games where you have DPS that peel for you, tanks that push in aggressively and make all the space, or healers that pocket you like crazy. These games feel very easy to win, and you want every single game to be like that, but guess what? They're not going to be like that. For a number of reasons, including teammates being simply bad, them getting dove, or the enemy team being extremely strong and lethal at their strategy, you need to understand how to be self-sufficient when you have to be. This means going and seeking out health packs. This means playing around natural cover. This means adapting your picks so you're counterpicking enemies and you don't need that many resources. Understanding when you have to be self-sufficient is the first step to being a truly self-sufficient player and carrying your team again and again. If you want to improve yourself as a player extremely quickly, definitely come check out GameLeap.com. I'm going to break it down more at the end of the video, but for now, hope you enjoy. Now moving on to number 5, this is a really obvious one, but I need to put it on this list. Get kills, don't die. It's a very simple phrase that many people say, but a lot of people can't get this right. You need to not only be able to get kills and get impact, but value your life more than everything. If you want to be the difference maker, if you want to be the hard carry, if you want to be the person that turns fights again and again, don't give up your life so easily. This means don't playing in natural cover, don't take risky duels when you don't have to, and try to balance the playing field as much as possible by securing kills safely and not getting punished for it. I know that this seems like an incredibly easy concept to state, but frankly, if you're a DPS, a tank, or even a support that can get kills to a team fight, it's incredibly easy to win 6v5s, honestly. It's even easier to win 6v4s or 6v3s. Getting a pick, getting that numbers advantage is the easiest way to win fights again and again, and you see it when you watch Smurfs. They don't die. It seems like they go in and out of combat, and they really value their own life. They understand that they have more impact than your average person, and if you think that you're stuck at the rank that you are right now, you should feel the same way. You should feel like a Smurf at the rank that you're currently at, and if you die, then all of a sudden, it's a mixed bag, and your teammates aren't going to be able to carry you. You don't even want your teammates to carry you, because honestly, that's not how you improve. That's not how you get to the next rank and beyond. If you want to win more games, you need to be able to get kills safely, value your life, and don't die. Now let's move on to number 6 on our list, and this is pick up the slack. Now this goes specifically when you're analyzing your teammates. If you're a tank player, you're analyzing your other tank. DPS, you're the DPS. Support, you're the support. You need to pick up the slack. If you realize that the player on your team isn't doing their job, you need to realize this and pick up the slack. This is what I mean. Let's say you're playing a support like Lucio and your other support is playing something like Ana, but time and time again, your tanks are dying on the front lines. They're not playing that far away from you, but they keep dying again and again. And the healer on your team that's responsible for the burst amount of healing to keep the tanks up, they're not doing their job. You need to be able to pick up that slack. In a perfect world, that main support should be pocketing those tanks, making sure they're topped up, but that support's DPSing. That support's not doing their job, and you need to understand that you need to pick up the slack. If that support keeps playing like that, they're never going to climb, but you want to win the game anyways, and that's where you pick up their slack. Let's say you have a DPS that's constantly on the flank while your supports are getting dove over and over again. Maybe you need to swap to a McCree and play with your team so that you can protect them from divers. This is picking up the slack if you're ever their DPS. Maybe they're even playing McCree and they should be doing that job, but they keep going on flanks. Then maybe you need to swap to something like a Reaper or a Soldier or anything that can protect your team. Picking up the slack is so vital. And maybe you have a main tank, maybe you're playing Zarya and you have another main tank that's a Reinhardt, but he keeps going in, he keeps pushing in, and your teammates aren't getting shielded the way that they should be. You could pick up that slack by swapping to something like Orisa and still shielding your teammates. You can even try to pick up the slack from people outside your roles, something like a Hog, still peeling for allies because your McCree keeps flanking. Picking up the slack is such a vital skill to understand. If you can learn how to do this, you can really pick up the pieces of bad teammates and still find impact into games, even with the worst of teammates. Now, let's move on to number 7. This is carry with comms. The idea of carrying with comms is giving your teammates direction. That's a big problem with a lot of teammates is sometimes they have individually good skills, but they don't have any sort of direction. You can talk to your teammates, say, hey, Kree, can you help us with the backline? We keep getting dove and killed again and again. Or you can tell your Ryan, hey, can you push in more aggressively? We should try to take this space. Trying to carry with comms is extremely powerful. You can give your team direction, and honestly, calling is something that I do in a lot of my games, and it's extremely powerful. If I wanted to play at low ranks and climb all the way through, I bet you there'll be a number of games that would feel unwinnable to me. But if I talked in each and every game, if I told my team, hey, let's do this and this, let's push here, let's combo here, there will be so many more games that I would win by giving my team direction. An in-game leader, a shot caller, is so vital, and in-game leaders are even valuable all the way up to the the pro circuit, they have them. The reason they have them is having a game plan that everyone is on the same page for, every single person that's listening to you and trying to do what you say is happening. That gives them direction and removes your teammates from tunnel visioning. If they have that voice in their head that's telling them what to do, you'll easily win those games. And honestly, the easiest way to lose a game is if no one on your team talks. I can't tell you how many times I've had games where no one will say a word, and that almost ensures a loss. Make sure you're keeping the comms up, trying to keep the energy up, carry with comms, and you'll win a lot more games that you shouldn't have won in the first place. Now, let's move on to the 8th and final thing that you should be doing to hard carry the worst of teammates, and this is be flexible. Being flexible is a skill, and I've told people time and time again, if they want to improve, they should be trying to specialize. But if you bring forth some level of flexibility, you can make sure that you have the better team compositions than your opponents over and over again. If you're able to fill a shield tank spot, then you can always play team compositions that have shield tanks. This means over time, you'll have better on average team compositions than your enemy. If you're only a ball one trick, maybe you can climb to a certain level, but there'll be a number of games where you have a Zarya player, a Hog player, and then all of a sudden you're playing an extremely poor team composition because you're not flexible enough. Maybe you're a Genji player and you're insanely good when the stars align and you have a hit scan player, but if the enemy is playing a Pharah and you're incapable of flexing to a hit scan and you get another player on your team that's either not good at hit scan or doesn't flex to them at all, then guess what? You're playing a terrible team composition and you might lose outright because of it. Becoming flexible allows you to fill in the pieces and the weaknesses in your teammates. The more flexible you are, the more consistent good team compositions you'll have, and this can enable your teammates and allow them to play characters they're more comfortable on. Instead of having that player that's never played hit scan feel like he's obligated to flex to hit scan because he doesn't want to get farmed as a Pharah, you don't want that player on hit scan. You want to be more confident and you want to be more flexible, and you can take the burden off your allies. You can shelter a lot of that difficulty, and if you're willing to put in more time than them, if you're willing to put more hours, grind more characters, and be a better player all around, it will show, and the flexibility aspect will definitely translate to more games won and more SR gained. Now, I know that being flexible is extremely hard, but if you want to be flexible that much easier, definitely come check out GameLeap.com. GameLeap.com has in-depth guides on how to be flexible, how to pick up characters easily so that you can be a flex god, hard carrying your team. You'll learn all the tips and tricks that you need to know in order to hard carry even the worst teammates. So definitely come check it out and you won't regret it. Anyways, I hope this guide has been extremely helpful for you. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments down below. I would love to answer them, as well as any video ideas. Just let me know and we can get that out for you. Anyways, that's all we have for you today. I'm Coach Mills, and until next time.